Hello my friends, it has been more than 2.5 years since the release of Panasonic GH5, so I guess that it is the right time to start some discussions about the GH6. In this video I would like to sum up my thoughts about the features, specs and the performance that the GH6 should bring out to match the success of the GH5. Before I say anything, please note that I have no insider information about the GH6, I don't know if or when it will be released, so these are all just my assumptions. First of all, I think that Panasonic definitely needs the GH6. Full-frame Lumix S-Line probably took most of their resources in the past year or two. S1 and S1R have a lot of great features, but due to the high price, size, weight, very limited lens selection, and still not the most convincing autofocus system, it wasn't able to cut Sony sales by much. S1H with 6K video seems to be very capable camera, but it is not targeting the same users as the GH series. G95 or G90 was rather disappointing as well due to the lack of innovation, crop in 4K video and subpar autofocus system. GH5 on the other hand is still going strong, but it is 2.5 years old and the competition is getting more fierce with upcoming releases from Sony, Canon and Blackmagic. When should it be released? I would say that the sooner the better. My guess is late 2019 announcement and maybe early 2020 shipping. That would be in line with GH5 announcement in 2016. With the upcoming Sony, Fuji and Canon APS-C cameras, there is also a risk of GH5 users or new indie filmmakers going with other system if the new camera won't come out soon enough. Regarding the handling, I expect that to be a big strength of GH6. I would actually really like to see GH6 in Panasonic G9 body. I would just get rid of the status LCD screen and put the mode dial in its place. Otherwise, I think that this is still one of the best bodies on the market. The button placement is great, it is very well made, the grip is well shaped, there is enough buttons and dials for everything. One more thing that Panasonic needs to upgrade is the rubberized material on the grip, which peels off very easily. Comprehensive weather sealing is also very important for the GH line. It is already great on the GH9, so that doesn't really need to be upgraded. Regarding the sensor, I would say that staying with 20 megapixels would probably be the best choice. It is enough for stills and 4K, but not too much for the processing. Current Micro Four Thirds sensor is still very good in my opinion, but I think that it is the right time for a new backside illuminated Micro Four Thirds sensor. I don't know whether that will happen because it would probably have to be made by Sony. Tower just doesn't make BSI sensors, which is why the S1R doesn't have one, and I'm not sure whether Sony will be willing to make one for Panasonic and Olympus. BSI sensor would be an improvement in the dynamic range and ISO performance, which would help the GH6 against the new APS-C sensors from Sony and Canon. I also think that it is a time to bring the high-resolution modes to the GH line, so I think that there should be the high-res mode from the G9 with Mode 2 option from the S1 and S1R. I'm not sure about the speed, but I would be happy with 10 frames per second with autofocus continuous with mechanical shutter in RAW. There are some rumors about the GH6 having Super 35 or APS-C sensor, but I hope that it won't happen. I think the two mounts are more than enough for Panasonic and that they should continue their Micro Four Thirds line. Regarding the video specs, I think that it is pretty easy to tell what GH6 has to offer. That is no crop 4K DCI video up to 60 frames per second in 10-bit 422 with all intra and H.265 internally. Anything better than that would be nice, but that is what it needs to be a class leader in video specs. Fuji X-T3 can already shoot no crop 4K DCI up to 60 frames per second in 10-bit, but only at 420 internally. It uses larger sensor and more pixels, so Panasonic should be able to surpass that with smaller Micro Four Thirds sensor. With 12-bit RAW recording or full readout 5.2K video, the GH6 would be able to match Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K, which would be great. 4K at 96 or 120p would also be very nice, but I'm not sure whether we will see that. After the mess with Panasonic S1 free V-Lock update, I'm pretty sure that there won't be any extra charge for the V-Lock on Panasonic GH6. Importantly, Panasonic, Sony and everybody else just need to get rid of NTSC and PAL switching nonsense. Just give the users all frame rates in one global setting. DJI Osmo Action gives you 24, 25, 30, 48, 50 and 60 frames per second options without switching anything. Fuji X-T3 also offers all FPS options all the time, so Panasonic, please do the same. The in-body image stabilization can be just carried over from the G9. 6.5 stop in-body image stabilization that it offers is great. It works very well in both stills and video, it makes handheld shooting much easier and more convenient. It also makes the gimbal footage super smooth. I think that the GH6 should have in-body image stabilization because it is the hybrid all-round option. I also expect all of the extra features such as the electronic image stabilization and great IS-lock feature. That is rarely being mentioned, but it is the in-body image stabilization system combined with electronic image stabilization, and it makes the footage look like it was shot on a tripod. That works remarkably well. Having G9 stabilization combined with more advanced video features would be great, so I hope that we will see that one day. At this point I am pretty sure that Panasonic will stay with contrast-based DFD system. At the moment it is much better than people generally think. It works very well in the G9, GH5 and GH5S. It is still not quite there on Lumix S line, not even with firmware 1.2, but I hope that it will get better over the time. I don't think that DFD will fully match Sony hybrid autofocus anytime soon, but if Panasonic can further improve DFD, it will just be good enough and the comparisons with Sony won't be that important for the real world use. Importantly, it has to be good at the time of the release. Otherwise, the GH6 will be marked as a camera with bad autofocus like the GH5, despite that the autofocus on GH5 is actually very good with firmware 2.4. To step the game up, I think that it would be great if the GH6 used 2.1 million dot 3.2 inch screen from the S1. That one is super sharp and very pleasant to use. I think that keeping the fully articulating screen would be a better option. GH5 users like it, so I can imagine a big opposition in case that they would use Panasonic S1 mechanism. Personally, I much prefer Panasonic S1 tilting screen. It always stays in the center of the camera, it is not being blocked by the strap or HDMI cable, it requires less space and so on. Of course, GH5 screen is more suitable for vlogging, and I acknowledge that it is what the majority wants, so I wouldn't mind that. Regarding the viewfinder, 5.68 million dot viewfinder from the Lumix S line would probably be the best choice. 0.78 times magnification also seems to be more suitable for most users in comparison with huge 0.83 times magnification viewfinder in Panasonic G9. It should definitely have 120 Hz refresh rate. The user interface is also a big strength of Panasonic. It is already great on the G9 and GH5. It is even better on the Lumix S line, so I guess and hope that it will also be present in the GH6. It is more structured, which is quite important with the amount of features and options. It is in my opinion the best user interface on the market at the moment. I'm not sure whether I like the quick menu more on the GH5 or on the S1 though. Both are fine, but I guess that we will see the S1 quick menu on the GH6. There are some other features from the S1 that I would like to see on the GH6. For example, the possibility to switch between speed-sensitive and linear manual focusing. USB-C charging is definitely a must-have, and being able to power the camera without the battery using PD standard would also be great. There should also be the battery percentage indicator on the GH6. Regarding the micro four thirds lens selection, I think that it is pretty much complete, so what I would like to see are new out-of-the-box lenses. I have already tested one such lens. That is the Leica 10-25mm f1.7. It goes from ultra-wide 20mm full-frame equivalent to 50mm full-frame equivalent. That is in my opinion extremely useful focal range. f1.7 aperture also somewhat compensates for the smaller sensor. 10-25mm f1.7 is currently one of my most favorite lenses on the market. Using that lens together with Panasonic G9 in-body image stabilization to shoot 10-bit 422 4K DCI 60p video on Panasonic GH6 would be pretty incredible. Maybe something like 25 to 65mm f1.7 would be just as good. So to sum up, here is my Panasonic GH6 specs wishlist. Released in January 2020 or sooner, new 20.2 megapixel backside illuminated Micro Four Thirds sensor, Panasonic G9 body without top LCD, 4K DCI 60p 10-bit 422 recording, 240 frames per second 1080p with full manual controls and autofocus, external 12-bit RAW video up to 30 frames per second, Panasonic G9 6.5 stop in-body image stabilization, 80 megapixel high-res mode, 10 or more frames per second continuous shooting with autofocus continuous, DFD autofocus system that works a bit better than in Panasonic GH5, 5.68 million dot viewfinder from the S1, 2.1 million dot screen from the S1, and user interface from the S1. If Panasonic can do that, I think that this camera would be able to match the success of the GH5. I will happily pre-order this camera for about $2,100 or euros. I would also really like to hear your thoughts on this topic. Am I asking too much or too little? Should Panasonic give up on Micro Four Thirds and only make full-frame cameras? Please write that in the comments. So that's it for this video, thank you for watching, I hope that you liked this video and that you found it to be useful. Stay tuned for more videos and maybe consider subscribing if you don't want to miss my future content. I appreciate your feedback in form of thumbs up or thumbs down. If you would like to ask anything or share your opinion, please do so in the comment section and see you next time.